Hey everybody, this is Justine, your host of Mentally a Badass. What is up, mother duckers? This is your mentally unstable girl, Justine, the host of Mentally a Badass.
Hi, Justine.
Hey, Jessica. Hello. Let's get back to what we were talking about. We were talking about trauma in the workplace, and we only got through like a little bit of what we went through. We didn't even get to the part of actual stories, so we were like, let's put this in another episode, right?
Yeah, part 2.
Yeah. So, Jessica, do you remember what we were talking about? Because I forgot.
Well, where we ended was we were talking about how you felt when you started your job versus how you felt when you left your job, and some of the things that were red flags along the way that people could maybe look for or relate to if they're feeling like they're stuck in that type of like toxic environment that leads to workplace trauma, so they can know when to dip out. So where we were going with all of that was I wanted to hear some of the tea. Like we talked about like some of the juicy stories that happened or like just experiences that you had working in your job, whether it was with a coworker or with a customer, and how people who work in customer service positions where they're working face to face with a client, providing a service, how that work is so hard. And every company who deals with a customer needs some sort of customer service. Yet those jobs tend to be like the ones that are not paid well. They're really hard. Like turnover is really high. It's hard to retain people.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of the most critical, necessary jobs out there. And I think most people, like, I don't know exactly like what the breakdown would be, but I feel like most of the jobs out there in the world have like our customer service jobs to some degree.
To a degree, yeah.
Whether it's a sales job or something in the hospitality industry. I mean, I can't think of a job where you wouldn't have to deal with some sort of customer service unless you work in like
behind in the scenes, like packing something or making something,
or in like science and medical, like where you're
like science or medical. Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, let's jump right into it. Spill the tea. Yeah, tell me. I mean, okay, so let's think of two things. Can you tell me about
Pudgy?
What? I don't remember that. So tell me.
How do you not remember Pudgy?
I don't remember Pudgy.
Listen, Pudgy, listen. You don't remember Pudgy.
Maybe I will once you tell me. I probably will, because I think I do remember what it was.
Because you were laughing like crazy.
Was it a travel agent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try to talk about this where it's like because
in code.
Yeah, for real. Okay, so there's this like app that this place uses in order to make the customer experience better, right? Customer experience. So we would have travel agents calling, we communicate with them, and there's this app that travel agents know very well on how it works, and they know very well on what kind of access do we have on the back end. I don't remember exactly what the situation was, to be honest with you. It's kind of a little fuzzy at this point, but I remember I was telling Pudgy that I can't, like, this is something we can't do. And then she was like, well, you're going to do it anyway. Like, you need to do this. Like, blah, blah, blah. She was trying to bully me into doing it. And it was just something that was literally out of my control. I think like a computer thing as too. It's not like, I don't think it was a point where I can get a higher up to do something for me. Like, it wasn't anything in that way. It was like the way that the computer operates, and it's something that's just actually physically impossible. And this person knew exactly, because this person calls us for years and years, and they know how this app works. And she, for some reason, she was like not caring. She was bullying me. She was like testing me, like, you have to obviously keep your cool and stay professional, right? And I was like, I literally snapped. And I was like, listen, Pudgy, we can't do this for you.
Was her name Pudgy?
Yes.
Like in real life?
Yeah. I don't know if that's like her actual legal name.
I don't remember that at all.
How do you Okay, no. Listen, Jessica.
I could tell you about the one that I'm thinking. That's the one that I'm thinking of.
Okay, so
when you're done.
Okay, so the people around me who was sitting around me, when I said, listen, Pudgy, at that time, nobody was on a call. It was just me on the call, right? And they just hear me talking, and all of a sudden they just hear, listen, Pudgy. And then everybody was looking at me like, whoa. Like, at the time, I don't think I knew they were looking at me because I was just so into the call. And then after that, I think a day or two later, you're listening to calls. And out of all the calls, you listen to that call. And I was like, I'm getting fired.
How do I not remember that? It must not have been that. You were much more nervous about it than I was.
I literally thought I was getting fired because I snapped at this travel agent. I was like, really? Out of all the calls? Because I think you called me in. You did. I think.
Did you get in trouble? Did
no,
I yell at you?
You thought I was cool.
That sounds like me.
I do not remember this. Oh my God.
The one that I was thinking of was right after you got out of training. But it was like you were still, you hadn't built up that like thick skin to where like things could just roll off your shoulders.
Right.
And there was a travel agent who was known for being extremely difficult to work with. She was like, you must be, give me someone else. I don't want to talk to you. And like, we're like, that's not how this works. Like, I'm not going to put you back in the queue to talk to a different agent when I'm perfectly capable of helping you.
Right.
And she was so terrible to you and you were so upset. And I felt awful because you were like brand new. I think it was within your first like
probably like the first
60 days or something.
Yeah.
And you were crying. You were like, she was so terrible. You were, I mean, yeah, she was mean to you. And I was like, Mama Bear activated. Mama Bird. Yeah, and because I remember you and I had to go, we went to a conference room.
Yes.
And I was like,
I do remember this, yeah.
I was like, you're going to sit here with me. We're going to call this a one-on-one. And I want you to just breathe. And like, we're going to talk about how you cannot take things personally in this job because, first of all, she was wrong. She should not have talked to you like that. She should not have been like, oh, you must be new here. Like, I'm sorry. I'm the one who is getting paid by this company to help you. You're calling me to help you. Like these people were just out of control.
Yeah,
and
she got better because I think you guys complained to the agency.
I did. I went to the agency manager and was like, this just happened. You need to talk to your travel agents. They are not allowed to call here, treat people like this. We are here to help them. Like they can't be, because they were also notorious for calling, like our phone lines closed at 6.
Yeah.
And we would have a long queue, like a 15-minute wait, right? And they would literally call at 5:58 because they didn't want to wait on hold. And they'd get through to somebody and they would have like an hour's worth of work.
Yes, I hated that.
So they would do that they were becoming notorious for it. And I was like, no, these people, like our lines close at 6. You know they close at 6. Tell your travel agents if they have an hour's worth of work to get through, they need to be calling us at 5, not at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because we can't just keep these people here who are only scheduled to be here until 6.
Like 15 minutes after.
Yeah. I mean, we always anticipate like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
or so
which is, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. They were,
I remember that. Yeah.
You know, the ironic part?
What?
I now work for a travel agency, but we don't have to, like, we do all of our own bookings in-house. So
yeah, I do remember. I remember like having to stay there like past 7.
Yeah.
And it's also crazy too, if you think about it, like at the end of the night, we're all tired.
Everyone. And also, oh my God, we used to also have travel. I don't know if this happened to you, but during a particular season when certain registrations would open.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
People would call and like book one after the other, after the other, after the other. And so we had to remind everyone on the team, you have I think it was like I don't remember what the time limit was, 45-minute time limit.
Yeah, we had a time.
Like,
I think it was 45.
Yeah.
Max.
Like you cannot, like for your protection, like you're human. You need to get up and go to the restroom. You need to go get a snack, get a drink of water, take a breather. Like these people can't keep you because they were expecting, like I had someone on the team who stayed on the phone for like 3 hours.
Oh my God.
Trying to get through all of this person's, like, they wanted to just keep buying registrations, you know? Oh my God.
I do remember that.
I am a human. I'm not a robot.
Yes, I do remember that. I remember they were getting mad about it because like, I remember we had to do a cutoff at like 45 and we had to say like, hey, we, basically had to put them back in the queue.
Yeah.
And they were they were of course very angry about it. But I think as time went on, they were just accepting it. So they were trying, but it's true. It's like being on the phone.
I'm sorry, I just interrupted you.
Oh no. I was saying you're right. Like think about it human wise. Like after like an hour, like people have to use the bathroom, drink a water. I mean, I can drink a water at my desk, but like
Again, we're not robots.
Yeah.
Like, but they'd get mad because they'd be like, well, I've waited in this queue. I should be able to stay on the phone and get everything that I need accomplished. Like, yeah, because what they would say is like, oh, well, some people on the team can get through one of these registrations that I want to buy in 5 minutes. So then other people will take 15 minutes because they're not moving as quickly. And I'm like, well, everyone has a different level of like skill and like quickness, and some people move a little bit more slowly, and like it's not up to you to determine like, I mean, everyone who is on this team has been determined that they can do this job.
Right.
So like we have determined their skill set and their skill level, and like they're meeting our expectations. It's not on you as as like the third party calling into us to determine whether or not they're working well enough or fast enough. Everyone moves at a different level. People have been here longer. Some people have been here only a short amount of time. So
it's kind of like, I mean, it's all who you get, but it's like you can't like expect everybody to be exactly the same. Even like as you were saying, some people have been here longer. Some people are new. It's like, that's just inevitable. That's just life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that they're doing anything wrong or that they're going to screw something up. It's just, they might just take a little bit longer because they're double checking their work, or, they're
and
making sure
wouldn't you rather them take their time?
Yeah.
Like when I'm on the phone with people, like on a call center, and they're doing like my stuff for me on the end, and they're taking some time to like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, take your time. I say so. I'm like, take your time. I'd rather you be taking your time and doing everything correctly than rushing because you think I'm going to yell at you, and then something does a mistake, and then I get angry and call you back, and we don't need that. So take your time.
Yeah. Trauma.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? I'm going to tell you this, and it might go a little bit off topic for like a second, anyway. So still today, like, you know how we were getting yelled at a lot, and people were just horrible to us, and as you were saying, you're like, that she was so mean to you, like she treated you so bad, and that was kind of like one of the first rodeos in that job. And then over time, for like 4 years I worked there, my brain just gets scared of people. Like I'm just assuming everybody's gonna yell at me. So like sometimes, like when I just go out and just talk to people who I don't even know, I just think they're gonna attack me. It's like, how did I develop this fear of human beings?
Yeah, that's trauma. That's a trauma that happens to me in my job now. Like I got so used to certain expectations of like how fast I was going to accomplish projects, for example. Like we would be tasked with something, and management team would be like, we needed this done yesterday. Like stop everything that you're doing and do this one super time sensitive, extremely complicated and time consuming project for me. I need it like ASAP. And that started to, at the end, that was like happening every week. They were changing like what they needed us to do, all this reporting, all these side projects.
Is your current job?
That's my last job. That was happening at the end before I left.
I was going to say, I'm like, that sounds like the other job.
Yeah. And it was like, it kept changing, and it was just like things were being layered on top of each other. Like, and I started to be like, I can't even do my core job responsibilities because you guys can't get your stuff together, and you keep putting more and more work on us. And when I tried to bring that up to them and be like, how are you expecting me to get like my core job responsibilities done on top of all of this additional work that you have required us to absorb because you haven't backfilled people? Roles are still vacant. There's been so many reorganizations. And I was basically told, well, this is what's expected of you when you're salaried. You just figure out how to fit it into your week. If you're working on the weekends, if you're working at night to make it happen, then that's what you need to do. You need to figure it out because you're salaried. It's not like you're clocking in and out. And I was like, but I'm sorry. Yes, I'm salaried. Yes, I will obviously be working sometimes like more than 40 hours a week. Like that's to be expected. But I'm also only getting paid for 40 hours a week. So I am not about to clock 60 hours just to make up for all this extra work that you are layering on me. Like that's a you problem.
Yeah, for real.
But that doesn't happen in my current job at all. So like sometimes I'm like my manager will be like, hey, we have this project we have to work on. And then I'm like my knee-jerk response is like, drop everything that I'm working on, hyperfixate on this, knock it out. And then I'll go to her and be like, okay, I worked on this already. She's like, you finished all that already? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, whoa, that was so fast. We had 2 weeks to get that done. And I'll be like, oh my God, I have to like check myself and remember like I'm not in that environment anymore. So it's like this, you carry this with you. You don't even realize it.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to tell you this. I forgot to say in the last episode, but during like the PW season, and we had so many calls and this, and it was just a lot going on, a lot of screaming, a lot of, pain that we went through. I would literally wake up in the middle of the night saying my greeting.
That's not funny. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be laughing. But yeah, I've been there.
Sad.
That happened to me when I worked in fast food when I was in high school. And I worked in the drive-thru and I switched restaurants. Like I worked for like a year at one fast food place and then I switched and worked at a different fast food place. And sometimes I would mix up my greetings at the drive-thru. Or I'd answer the phone. Like my mom would call me and I'd be like, thanks for, whatever. And she's like, no, Jessica, it's mom.
Do you remember like the 5 different greetings we had to know? Well, I had to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every time, and sometimes it wouldn't even come through.
Did you ever have like dreams about like that you were still at work, like stress dreams?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's when you know it's bad.
I still have dreams of me in high school. Like I still have those dreams. It's kind of like they just say it's just like an anxiety dream.
Yeah.
Just like your teeth falling out. Like I have a dream that I'm like late for class or something, and I realize I'm not even in high school anymore.
Yeah.
It's such a relief though to realize I'm not in high school. When you wake up and you're like, shoot, I actually don't have to go to like English class, or I don't have to do this paper that I didn't want to do in my dream.
Oh, and that significantly impacted you if you're having dreams about that still.
Hello, mother duckers. Pausing the podcast here because I have a lot to say, a lot of announcements here. So giddy up, let's go. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. If you're on Spotify, leave us a rating. And if you're on YouTube, leave us a comment. Tell us what you like or tell us what you fucking hate. But also be a little nice because I don't feel like crying in the corner tonight. Second, we have a clothing line. Yes, clothing line where we have unique designs by our co-founder, Ariel. And lastly, if you want us to slide into your emails, we have a monthly newsletter. So everything is in the description. Go ahead and take a look. And yeah, let's get back to the show.
See, like, okay, I'm trying to think of high school though. I'm trying to think like, why did it? I guess maybe it was a lot of anxiety when you had to get to class and like do everything in 5 minutes.
It's probably the first time you ever had that type of anxiety in your life. If you think about it, I think a lot of people have that like the time management piece of like suddenly you are the one responsible for getting yourself from point A to point B, and like you're responsible for getting all of your homework done and all your projects. Like because when you're in like middle and elementary school, like your teachers kind of like they're the ones primarily guiding you through things. Your parents are guiding you through things. But when you get into high school, it's like suddenly you're like on this like college journey.
True.
I don't know if you remember this because I know you and I graduated. When did you graduate high school?
2013.
Okay, so I graduated in 2010. So we were just a couple years apart. But I heard a lot like, this is how it's going to be in college. I'm just trying to prepare you for this. Yeah. It's going to be so hard. You're going to have all this. And then I get to college and it's like.
College was so much easier.
It's like we get babied. I'm like, what?
We do. Oh my gosh. One time I was late for class. I think I was like 15 minutes late or 10 minutes. And I walk in and then he looks at me. He was like, you're late. And I was like, well, I had to get coffee. He was like, valid.
Yeah.
And then, no, he would look, I think it was just like, it was awkward because like he was doing it. I just like came in and then I think like he was honestly a very chill professor. Like he didn't even like dress professional. One time he put on like a video on YouTube of a dog with like it was a pub and then the background music was like metal. It was just so random. So yeah, he was pretty chill. I remember it was like statistics, I think. But yeah, no, and I think another thing too, reason like why came late is just like I think I knew he was chill. But either way, they don't really get on your back on that is because they see it as like you're paying to be here. You know what I mean? So it's like if you're gonna be late and if you're like
that's true, they get paid either way because your tuition's already being paid.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in high school, it's like you're forced to be there.
Yeah,
and so another thing I want to mention, like when I was in high school and had like those 5 minutes, I think it was 4 minutes, who knows? The hallways were so thin. Well, not too thin, but
narrow. Yeah,
there were so many students trying to get to their class that I got anxiety because a lot of times people will be late because it's like traffic.
It happened to me too. I You went to high school in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I went to high school in Ohio. So different regions of the country.
Different worlds.
Yeah. But my high school was massive.
Yeah.
And I mean, looking back, I don't know if I'd feel that way now that I've been like in the real world, but at the time it was a very large high school. It's one of the biggest high schools in Northeast Ohio, if I remember correctly, or it was at the time. And they had basically like, I think they had combined a couple of schools and like basically made it into like one giant building. So we had houses. So like there was like one side of the campus was like 2 stories. And then the other side of the campus was 2 stories. And so the majority of your classes, like when the counselors were putting together your schedule, would be in either like one side of the campus or the other. But I think it was like my junior and senior year when I started to take AP and honors classes, they would be spread out all over the place. So sometimes I would have a class like on the second floor in the first campus, and I would literally have to like get down the stairs, make it across the campus, and get upstairs to the other side of the building for classes. And yeah, we had like 5 minutes to do that.
Yeah,
that's where my anxiety started.
I actually remember, like, as my shoulder's hurting right now, my freshman year of high school, when it was like the first time, I like never went to my locker in between class. I carried every single textbook in my backpack.
Yeah.
And that's like obviously horrible for your back.
We should do a whole episode about like school and like
I'm telling you, we can literally have like years of episodes. Like this is why I'm just like, we should just have a whole series together. It's like Conversations with Jessica.
I have no credentials, by the way. I am just a person.
You're just talking.
I'm just a person
You
hanging
just
out.
chill.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were like, if I was asking you like a licensed therapist, that's a whole different story. But we're just talking about, real life and things that like people don't talk about. Like, I'm sure no one really talks about the anxiety of high school, of 5 minutes of getting to class and how broken that system is. Like, we can talk about that like in another episode.
Well, and I remember when I came out of college and I moved to Florida and started my big girl job, and I had roommates. I lived with 2 girls at that time, like right after I graduated from college. I think all 3 of us at the time were completing internships, and we were on like temporary, like 6-month assignments at our jobs, not knowing if we were going to be staying with this company permanently or if we were going to like just finish up this work and then like move back home and, look for a job out in the real world somewhere else. And everyone at that time in like their early 20s were struggling with this, like, I have no idea what the future holds. I have no idea what to do next. I don't know if I should stay. I don't know if I should go. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And I remember having like, personally, I had this moment where I was like, if you think about it, up until now, every part of your life has had kind of like an anticipated end date on what you're working on. So like when you're in high school, you're working towards high school graduation, knowing that you're probably going to go to college. For most millennials, that was always like the next step that we were encouraged to go to. Or you're going to go maybe into a job or maybe into some sort of like a certification or like a career program. But so like, let's just say for the sake of this example, college. So then you get into college and then you have that like 4 to 5 years where like the next step is college graduation. And then for most people after college graduation, you're either like going out to like an internship, which probably has an end date of some sort, but like you're always working towards something. Right. And then when all of a sudden you're just like out in the real world and you are just existing as a human, it's like, who am I? What do I do now? And that's what all of us had this, like, I think that's what caused a lot of people to have like that quarter life crisis around the age 25, because suddenly you're like, you're out of college, you're working, you're not making enough money to live by yourself or to like really pursue like great hobbies or travel. You're just like trying to figure, oh God, it was such a confusing time. And then of course, around that age, what else is also happening, or at least it was like my friend group at the time, is like, people are starting to date. People are starting to get engaged and and think about like getting married and like, do I want to have kids? Do I want to buy a house? Like all of that for like, I don't know, for a lot of people I knew at that age, that's what was happening. And like, if you layer all of that, those giant question marks on top of like a toxic work environment, just to like bring this back to what we're talking about. Yeah. I mean, people have so many things going on outside of work that can impact how they feel at work. And like, you just never know. You never know. And that's only, I mean, this example was about like people who were, young adults. Like just think about other people who have, like I had someone on the team who was a caregiver. She had responsibilities outside of work, taking care of a family member, people who have like family that live at home with them that they're taking care of, people who don't have somewhere to live and who are living out of their vehicles. Like you never know what someone
must be hard
is going through. That, I mean, if you have a toxic work environment, like oh my God, that could just be the thing that just,
You know what's crazy is that where we worked, I don't really consider where we worked as like toxic, just a job itself, because you're a great
I'm a great what?
I was gonna say we're a great boss, and I said bros. Anyway.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, and I mean you're a great boss, and then the other person too, like, and coworkers, like everybody was great, and then as you were saying before, we're all trauma bonding.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we're all there together, and so overall, it's not like there was really like drama. People were getting yelled at by their boss, or this or that. All the pain that came was from the guest.
It was the external.
It was the external. And I said, like
the pressure. It's like a pressure cooker.
Right, exactly. And it's like I say, like, when I left the company, when people ask me about that company, and they automatically assume it's the company that's the reason I left. It's not. Like, if it was a different job, Jessica, if I was in a different position, I probably would still be with the company.
Yeah.
I think it was just that job that literally destroyed me. And like, I was trying to get to other, positions, and, it's competitive once you're there internally. And like I said, if it wasn't the job, I would have stayed with the company. But, everything does happen for a reason. And then what else I was going to say? I was getting to something else. Oh, yeah. I was basically saying, like, I didn't think it was really like the environment, like the building that we were in. It was just like the guests. But it's hard because, like, how can you really control that?
Yeah.
I would say the only thing that I felt like the company could have done better is that there's like certain policies and certain updates and certain things that would piss off the guests. And I don't blame them. And the thing that I didn't like is that the uppers, the higher up, would make these changes, and then we have to deal with the consequences.
Oh yeah, I think that's most big companies.
Yeah, so that's, like I said, that's the only thing that I would say could do better, and would be, so it's not like the actual, like, our level that was the toxic. It was just the people that weren't in like the direct, like, room with us, and who weren't working directly with us. And I remember that you were always fighting for us because they would look at numbers and they wouldn't like the numbers, so they would treat us as numbers. And then you always had to be like defending us, and like, this is actually really happening on the phones right now. Like you're looking at the numbers, you think that we're a bunch of lazy people, but it's not. Like, you're not in the job, you don't really understand what's going on. It's not just like simple as, oh, take a call, okay, next call. It's like, no, it's a lot more complicated. And then also the way that the job is set up, the amount of information that we have to know, and the amount of jobs within the actual job. Like, I had like multiple different greetings. And so it's like you have to constantly switch your brain. And the thing is like, when the guests call in, they have no idea. They have no idea that they're calling the same team, and they would be like in shock of that, because it's like two like completely different parts of the company. I mean, they're all in like the same like general like whole group thing, but like the actual type of guest, like they all had different policies. So that's another thing too, is how to remember, like, they each had different policies, and that was very stressful. And then I can literally go on and on about the pandemic and how I had to go away to help another part of the company. And while we're over there helping that company, we had another part of the company. So I was like, I literally worked in like every part of the company besides like Hollywood. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I worked every part of this company besides the fun part where it's like I'm a star and I get paid really well. But then again, like, they have their own trauma too, where a lot of people are like coming and having their own podcasts and talking about their trauma with the company. So it's like, I think it's just the whole problem is like the standard. And honestly, I blame mostly society, but I mean, they're both have their own faults, company and society, but mostly society is because this company, is held on like a very high standard, and they have, do that, or the company is going to pretty much fall apart. So, but the thing is like, if society was like more accepting and more understanding, and remember that we're all human being, and we're not like little fairies and such, then I feel like there would be a little bit more or less pressure. I feel like, a lot of people talk about, the bigger, like, famous people, child actors, they come and they talk about their trauma, right? But there's not really people like us that are online, like talking about their particular trauma with the company. And
it's probably because people don't like people. Those actors are like big names and everyone knows who they are. And for like the average Joe, they're probably like, oh, I don't care what the like
it's true.
frontline person has to say. But I think if more people did come out and weren't afraid to talk about it, it would open people's eyes and be like, dang. I mean, think there have been documentaries that have come out. Mm-hmm.
About the company?
I watched one on
How? Where?
I don't remember which streaming service it was, but it was about our sister, like on the West Coast.
Oh, I had to work that job too.
Yeah,
I worked on the West Coast in the in my bedroom.
Yeah, so I think like, I mean, I know for the purposes of this episode, we're talking specifically about like our gripes, because there were a lot of great things too, and
yeah, but we talk about the juicy stuff.
Not everything. Yeah, we are talking about the juicy stuff.
No, yeah,
Not
I mean, there's definitely good parts that we can have an episode of talking about the positive parts.
Well, not just that, but I think where I wanted to go with that is that no matter how good things were at one point, or how many other great things like perks and benefits and like the good parts of the culture, no matter how good it is, if the bad is so bad that you cannot see beyond the bad,
it's overpowering.
Yeah, that's where I think like that's the biggest sign that like this is toxic, no matter how you slice it. Like, I am just a cog in this wheel. I am just a number. I am not going to be able to impact change.
Yeah.
So maybe I need to leave, and like maybe I come back one day down the road when things maybe.
Which I feel like after this podcast, I have no chance, because the next thing I'm going to tell you is pretty much going to give away.
Do I need to like? This is Justine's statement and hers alone. Do I need to make that disclaimer?
It's kind of like so you were talking about the benefits, and then you were talking about the negatives, and then you were saying how like the negatives can be so powerful you forget about the good.
Yeah,
so that's my point. So
okay.
Basically, when I was
like the stink eye just then, you were like,
did I? Oh, I'm so sorry. Apparently, sometimes I do that. I don't realize it. But also remember, my right eye moves by itself sometimes. So just keep that in mind if my eyes like. Anyway, so the point was when things were getting like really, really bad with my mental health, I was like, I got to remember why I joined this company. That's the thing. It's like I can get a contact center job anywhere, right? But I came to this company. I moved states away for this company for a reason. Right. And I was forgetting why, because the job was so stressful. It just felt like a regular job without the actual culture where everybody wants to work and it brings them in. So what I had to do, I had to go said place to watch a show to remind myself why I am here. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Is it a nighttime show?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I had the same moments. I'm like,
really? Yeah.
I started to feel like I used to spend pretty much all my free time consuming things from the company that we worked for. Because I think we talked about that in our last episode, or 2 episodes ago now, whatever it was, that it's part of your identity, and it's part of like it, you know, you move to this area, and it's like most people who work or who live in this area work like there's 2 big companies that we could be talking about right now, right?
Yeah, true.
Well, I guess 3.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. A lot of people spend their free time, you know, and so I stepped away from that because I just didn't care anymore. And then
it wasn't like good enough at that point.
It wasn't. And I was like, I mean, everyone always used to say to me, isn't like going to be gone when you work for that company? Like, isn't it going to ruin it for you? And I was like, no, if anything, it makes it better, because like I can make a difference. And then and then like now I look back and I'm like, it totally did ruin it for me in many ways. And that's probably not everybody's experience. You know, I think it's hard. I think it just was the part of the company that you and I worked in.
Yeah, that, and I mean, I think I would say my best experience is like that internship that I had right before you, because the actual environment I didn't think was toxic. I mean, we did have like one person that was kind of toxic, but overall it was fine. And the leadership was great and such. And the job was easy too. I mean, we're working face to face with clients, and they're less likely to be, you know, frustrating and annoying because they know it's not. Yeah, you know what I mean. So that was a great job, and I loved that one. Before that, I worked at a ride, and that one was really hard on me. I was literally like, I remember drinking like every night. It was that bad. Like,
Yeah.
that one was like super bad, that I would go into like mental breakdowns and I would literally like lose my mind. I would be like, I remember, I think it was during the holiday season, I had to work like, there was 3 days in a row where one day was a 13-hour shift. The next day was 12-hour and then 11-hour. By the time I got to the 11-hour shift, when I was walking to clock in, I was literally dissociated the whole time. I felt like completely dead. And I'm like, in my head, I'm just like, well, at least I'm getting OT. But I'm like, is this really worth it? But I mean, that was my way back into, the company. And then the job that I had before that, um, I think it was fine. Like, I didn't really like, my mental health wasn't really hitting a decline. So that one, I feel like it was fine. It just, yeah, it really depends on the position you're in. Like, I hear multiple different stories. Like, some people will be like, oh, this is a great company, and some people are like, oh my gosh, we need to expose them. It just really depends. It's like who your leadership is, because if your leadership sucks and the guests suck, the whole situation sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just automatically and then the whole company you see as like horrible, right? And because people do like say to me like their experiences, I see things online all the time, and then I'm just like watching it, and in my head I'm like, well, I didn't have the same experience. Like, I hear that like people would get like sexually assaulted.
Oh,
Yeah, like, sexually like assaulted, or really bad things would happen, and then leadership team didn't take it seriously. So I've heard a lot of horror stories. And then generally, I feel like those happen when the leader has to be responsible for like 50 people.
yeah.
And it's like, this is not an excuse, but naturally, like, the leadership is going to seem like low quality, because at the end of the day, they're human. There's only so many people you can manage at a high quality. Like with you had to manage what, like 20, 30 people?
Yeah. When our team was at its full size, I had 32 or 35 direct reports, which was a lot because part of my job was, I mean, I never actually was able to keep up with this, but I was supposed to meet with each person on my team twice a month.
Oh, really?
Which
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to do that. That's what I was there for.
Yeah.
However, realistically, if I was to schedule that, that would have been all that I was doing. And then where I told you at the end, I kept getting more and more and more and more and more and more added to my plate. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to take care of my team and coach and like help them? Because I take that very seriously, and that's what I'm here to do. And it's going to take me some time if I'm going to do it the right way. Or do you want me to do all these little side quests that you keep sending me on?
Exactly.
Like because that was the issue, is I had a new manager who would come in and she would start working at like, I think like 7 or 8 in the morning. She'd leave around 6 p.m. So right there, that's already like a 11-hour day. And then she'd get back online at like 9 or 10 at night, and she'd work until midnight. And she never came out and said it, but it was kind of like, because she was making herself available for that amount of time, we were also expected to just make ourselves available because we had a work phone. So because we had a work phone, we should be able to be reached at all hours, because it should always, like, it was just like this unspoken expectation. So I never came out and said it, but I was like, no, I have a family. I have a life. I am not going to be. So you know what happened?
What?
Hurricane Ian. Do you remember Hurricane Ian? Yeah, because you lived in where it was really bad. Our team was tapped to do basically like a hurricane response task force. Let's just call it that. And we were required, like, we had to have people working until I think it was like 11 p.m. And this was like right before the hurricane hit, through the hurricane, and then after the hurricane. I'm going to tell you right now, leading up to the hurricane, I had 2 babies. I was doing my own hurricane prep. I am not working until 11 p.m. I'm just not. I've got my own stuff to take care of. I don't really care about my job right now. And then through the hurricane, we were hit. Our house was damaged. I didn't have power for 3 days. I contacted my boss. Are we closed? Do I need to work? Yes, you're required to be in the office. I haven't taken a shower in 2 days. I've got 2 kids. My daycare's closed. Like, I'm not coming into work.
Hey everybody, Jessica had to leave because of a family emergency. So because of that, we do have to end the podcast here. But thank you so much for listening. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.